My obsessive adoptive sister said she would disappear if I chose another girl. Manhwa recap. The story begins with a boy named Daniel Morozov. From the outside, his life looked perfect. A huge house, wealthy parents, a private driver, an expensive school, and a bedroom where there were more toys than friends. But Daniel had no friends. His father was almost always away on business trips. His mother was busy with charity foundations, social events, and the family's reputation. They loved their son, but they loved him from a distance. Through gifts, bank transfers, and short messages. Don't be bored. We'll be back soon. Only soon, sometimes lasted for weeks. One winter, when Daniel was 11, his parents brought a girl into the house. She stood in the entrance hall with a small suitcase, wearing a gray coat that was far too thin for the freezing weather. Her name was Elina Vail. She was 10. After her mother's death, she had almost stopped speaking, barely ate, and sometimes woke up in the middle of the night from panic attacks. Daniel's mother said Elina would live with them for a while. "Think of her as your little sister," she said gently. Elina raised her eyes and looked at Daniel as if she was already waiting for him to hate her. She probably thought he would chase her away, that a spoiled rich boy would never want to share his home with a stranger's child. But Daniel did not chase her away. He walked up to her, took her small, cold hand, and said seriously, "Since you're my sister now, I'll protect you." Elina looked at him for a long time. Then, for the first time in many days, she quietly cried. From that moment on, she became his shadow. Daniel bought her sweets with his pocket money, secretly brought her warm milk when she could not sleep, and read her strange fairy tales that he invented on the spot. In those stories, there was always a lonely prince who found a lost girl in the forest. The girl was afraid of everyone, but the prince promised that he would never give her to the monsters. Elina listened silently, and then fell asleep holding the edge of his sleeve. Sometimes she asked, "Stay until I fall asleep." And he stayed. Several years passed like that. For Daniel, it was a warm childhood attachment. He thought of Elina as family, as a sister, as the closest person in the house. But Elina grew up differently. When she turned 15, her gaze changed. She no longer looked at Daniel like a brother. She watched his every move, remembered the names of every girl who spoke to him, and could stay silent all evening if he came home late after classes. Daniel noticed it, but he did not understand. He thought it was because of trauma, because of her fear of being abandoned, because of the past she could not let go of. He tried to be more careful, not to make unnecessary promises, not to let their closeness cross a strange line. But the harder he tried to keep a distance, the colder Elina became. In the end, the doctors insisted on long-term treatment abroad. Her aunt, the owner of a private clinic in Switzerland, took her away. Before leaving, Elina stood by the car for a long time and looked only at Daniel. "Will you miss me?" she asked. "Of course," he answered. "More than everyone else?" He hesitated. "You're my sister." Elina smiled then, but there was something in that smile that made Daniel feel uneasy for the first time. "Exactly," she said. "Yours." After she left, the house became huge and empty again. 6 years passed. Daniel entered the Northern Academy of Arts. He studied acting, appeared in small shows, worked part-time as a host for student events, and slowly got used to living without the constant feeling that someone was waiting for him behind a door. He had a close friend named Lana River. Lana was bright, loud, and talented. She helped him with rehearsals, argued with him until they were both hoarse, and laughed so loudly that teachers turned around in the hallway. Many people thought they were dating. Daniel denied it, but not very convincingly. One day after class, he was standing near the theater building discussing a new project with Lana when his phone vibrated. The number was unknown. He answered. At first, there was only silence on the line. Then a quiet female voice said, "Brother." Daniel's fingers went cold. He recognized that voice immediately. Not because he had heard it recently, but because some voices carve themselves into childhood more deeply than photographs. "Elina," he breathed. Someone on the other end of the line smiled softly. "You still remember me." Daniel did not know what to say. 6 years without calls, without messages, without holiday postcards. Only rare news from his parents. The treatment was continuing. Her condition was stable, and for now it was better not to disturb her. And now she had simply called. "I'm at the main gates of the academy," Elina said. "My suitcase is heavy. Will you help me?" Daniel rushed out almost immediately. Lana noticed how his face had changed. "Who was that?" she asked. "Elina is back." The name seemed to fall between them like thin glass. Lana knew about her. All of Daniel's close friends knew about that strange adoptive sister he never forgot, but almost never talked about. Lana forced herself to smile. "Then go. You haven't seen each other in a long time." Daniel nodded and ran toward the gates. Lana watched him until he disappeared around the corner. Then she quietly said to the empty air, "So you finally came back." At the academy gates stood a girl Daniel did not even recognize at first. Elina had changed. Long silver ash hair fell over her shoulders. A black coat fit perfectly over her slender figure. Her lips were softly colored, and her face had the calmness of someone who had learned how to look strong even when everything inside was shaking. She was beautiful. Not childishly beautiful. Dangerous. The kind of beauty that made people look away without meaning to, because they felt that in front of them was not just a girl, but someone's untold nightmare. But when Elina saw Daniel, her eyes became the same as before. The same eyes of the little girl who had once held onto his sleeve. "Brother," she said. He walked toward her slowly. "Long time no see." 2,193 days, Elina replied. Daniel froze. She had counted. Every day. He tried to smile to hide his awkwardness. "You were always good with numbers. Only the ones connected to you." She said it calmly. Too calmly. Daniel took her suitcase. "Are you staying for long?" Elina looked straight into his eyes. "Do you want me to leave?" "No." "Of course not." "Then for a long time." He decided to call his parents, but before he could, Elina suddenly hugged him. Tightly. So tightly, it was as if she was checking whether he was real. "I missed you," she whispered. "Did you ever think about me the way I thought about you?" Daniel froze. There were students around them. Some of them were already staring. He carefully placed a hand on her back. "Elina, you're back. That's what matters." She did not let go. "No, what matters is you." He pretended not to hear it, because if he heard it, he would have to admit that the dangerous boundary between them had appeared again. He walked her to the women's dormitory. It turned out her aunt had arranged for Elina to join the faculty of set design and visual direction. She would be studying at the same academy as him. "If you want, I can ask Lana to help bring your things in," Daniel said at the dormitory entrance. Elina's face changed immediately. Her smile disappeared. "Lana, she's my classmate. She would just help." Does she help you often? Daniel felt the air grow heavier. Sometimes. We work on projects together. Elina looked at him as if he had just confessed to betrayal. I see. What do you see? You replaced me. He exhaled tiredly. Elina, 6 years passed. I made friends. Friends, she repeated. So that's what you call it now? He wanted to answer more sharply, but then he saw her fingers trembling around the suitcase handle, and he stayed silent. That evening, he took her to dinner. Elina was affectionate again. She held his hand as if nothing had happened. She ordered spicy soup, mushrooms, rice dumplings, and laughed when he struggled to remember her favorite dishes. You don't remember me well, she said. I remember more than you think. Then tell me what I was afraid of as a child. Thunder, dark corridors, and when someone locked a door from the outside. Elina stopped smiling. You really remember? Of course. She leaned closer. Then do you remember what you promised me? Daniel swallowed. To protect you. No, she said softly. You promised to take care of me for the rest of your life. A chill moved beneath his ribs. We were children. I was not a child in my feelings. She said it without hysteria, without tears, calmly, almost gently, and that made it even more frightening. The next day, Daniel took Elina home to his parents. On the train, she rested her head on his shoulder and said she felt dizzy. He did not argue. She had always handled travel badly, even though she used to insist she liked speed. Gray fields, suburban stations, and wet rooftops flew past the window. Elina was sleeping, or pretending to sleep. Daniel looked at her hair resting against his shoulder and tried to understand exactly when everything had become this complicated. His parents met Elina at the station. His mother cried first. His father, strict and restrained, simply placed his hands on her shoulders and looked at her face for a long time, as if checking whether the same girl had truly returned to them. Elina hugged them, but even in that embrace, her eyes searched for Daniel. At home, her room was exactly the same as it had been 6 years ago. His mother had deliberately kept everything in place: the books, the lamp, the old music box, and the plush white rabbit on the windowsill. Elina entered and stayed silent for a long time. Then she said, You really waited for me. His mother replied, All this time. Daniel stood in the doorway and felt a strange guilt. While his parents had preserved her room, he had only tried to preserve the memory of who he used to be, a good older brother who had once been everything to Elina. During dinner, they turned on the television. That evening, the first episode of a youth show aired, where Daniel appeared as a rookie actor and commentator. He wanted to sink through the floor from embarrassment, but Elina insisted that everyone watch it. When Daniel appeared on the screen, the broadcast chat exploded with compliments. What a handsome participant! His lips are so pretty. I hope he doesn't have a girlfriend. Elina read the comments aloud, at first, cheerfully, then more and more slowly. Her fingers squeezed the remote until her knuckles turned white. They like your face, she said. They're just viewers. They want you. Daniel tried to take the remote. Elina did not give it to him. On the screen, Lana leaned toward him during filming and whispered something. In the frame, it looked almost intimate. The room became quiet. Elina smiled, very softly. She's beautiful. Lana is just a colleague. You always say just when you want to hide something. His mother tried to change the subject, but Elina had already stood up. I'm tired. I'll go to my room. That night, Daniel heard a quiet knock on his door. Elina was standing in the hallway barefoot, wearing a white nightgown, with an empty look in her eyes. "I'm scared," she said. He immediately remembered their childhood. Dark corridors, thunderstorms, her fingers clutching his sleeve. "Come in." She entered and sat on the edge of his bed. "You won't leave me because of her, will you?" "Because of Lana." "Don't say her name so calmly." Daniel rubbed his face with both hands. "Elina, you're not a stranger to me. But you have to understand." "What?" He fell silent. She looked up at him from below. "That I'm your sister?" "Yes." Elina laughed softly. "Do you know the adoption documents were never signed? Legally, I was never your sister." Something inside Daniel collapsed. He had not known. His parents had always called her their adopted daughter. He had never asked for details. "How do you know?" "I checked." "Why?" "Because I needed to know whether I had the right to love you." He stood up sharply. "Elina." She stood too. "Don't look at me like that. I'm not a sick little girl. I grew up. I received treatment. I learned how to live among people. I did everything everyone wanted from me. But the only thing that never changed was you. This isn't right." "Why?" "Because you already chose Lana." "I didn't choose anyone." "Then choose me." He said nothing. Elina took a step closer. "If you choose another girl, I will disappear. Not immediately. Not loudly. One day you'll simply wake up, and I won't be beside you anymore. Then you'll live the way you used to, in an empty house, with beautiful things, and without the person who loves you more than life itself." Daniel felt real fear, not romantic excitement. Fear. Because there was no threat in her voice. There was certainty. As if she had already decided long ago that her life only had meaning if she was beside him. The next day, he took her to a doctor. Elina did not resist. She sat calmly and answered questions in an even voice. The doctor spoke about traumatic attachment, anxious dependency, broken boundaries, and the need for long-term therapy. Elina listened. Then she turned to Daniel. "Are you going to think I'm broken now?" He shook his head. "No." "Then why did you bring me here?" "Because I want you to live for more than just me." Those words hurt her more than he expected. She went pale. "So you really do want to get rid of me?" "No. I want you to be free." "I don't need freedom without you." After that, she became different. Not loud, not hysterical. Too calm. At the academy, she quickly became noticeable. Her projects were dark, beautiful, and frighteningly precise. Teachers praised her sense of composition. Students admired her appearance. But Elina did not get close to anyone, except Daniel. She appeared after every one of his rehearsals, brought coffee, sat in the last row, and watched him act. If Lana was near him, Elina smiled in a way that made Lana uncomfortable. One day, Lana could no longer hold back. "Do you realize she's controlling you?" Daniel replied tiredly. "She's sick." "No, she's smart, and she uses her illness like a lock to shut you in from the inside." He got angry, but not because Lana was wrong, because part of him understood it too. Soon, the Academy announced a short performance competition. The winner would receive a contract with a major studio. Daniel was supposed to perform together with Lana. Elina found out before he had time to tell her. On the day of rehearsal, she brought him a flash drive. "This is a script," she said. "I wrote the best role for you. I'm already participating with Lana. Withdraw." "I can't." "You can." "I won't." Elina looked at him with a long, cold stare. "Then I'll participate too." And she did. Not as an actress, as a director. Within a week, she assembled a team and wrote a story about a boy who promised to protect a girl, then grew up and forgot his promise. The final scene was so powerful that during rehearsal, the hall stayed silent for several seconds before anyone began to applaud. Daniel realized it was their story. Lana realized it too. On the day of the competition, Elina stepped onto the stage after the performance. The light fell over her silver hair, and her face was pale and calm. The judges asked where she had found such precision in portraying dependency and loneliness. Elina looked into the audience, straight at Daniel. "From love," she answered. "Sometimes love becomes a cage. But if the person inside the cage is smiling, no one calls it imprisonment." After the competition, her performance won. The studio offered the contract not to Daniel and Lana, but to Elina. Lana left the hall first. Daniel found her by the back exit. "Lana, wait." She turned around. "Do you really not see it? She didn't just come back. She came to take your whole life. And the worst part is, you're opening the doors for her yourself." He wanted to argue, but he could not. Because deep down, he already knew. Elina did not simply love him. She was building a world where he would have no one left but her. That evening, Elina waited for him in the empty auditorium. "Are you angry?" she asked. "You used our story. It's mine too. You made me look like a traitor in front of everyone. Were you not one?" He said nothing. Elina stepped closer. "I'm not asking you to love me right now. I'm asking for only one thing. Don't give the place beside you to someone who came after me. Love is not a cue. Not for you. For me, it is." She took a thin folder from her bag. Inside were documents, not marriage papers, a joint project contract. The studio had offered Elina a contract, but she had written Daniel in as the main actor and co-author. If he signed, they would work together for at least 3 years. 3 years beside her. 3 years without Lana. 3 years in the world Elina would build. "Sign," she said. "And if I don't?" Her face remained calm. "Then I'll leave, this time without an address." Daniel stared at the documents for a long time. There it was, that same cage. Beautiful. Golden. Built by someone who truly loved him, but did not know how to love without fear. He took the pen. Elina almost smiled, but Daniel did not sign. He closed the folder and placed it back in her hands. "I will not marry your fear, Elina, and I will not sign my life away to someone who holds me with threats of disappearing." Her eyes darkened. "So you choose her?" "No, I choose a boundary." That word struck her like a blow. She stepped back. "You promised to take care of me." "Yes, but caring does not mean belonging." For the first time, Elina had no answer. She left silently. The next day, she really disappeared. She did not answer calls. She did not come to class. At the dormitory, they said she had packed her things during the night. Daniel was more frightened than he had ever been. He called his parents, the clinic, her aunt, and the academy administration. No one knew anything. Only in the evening did he receive a message. "If you want to find me, remember the first fairy tale." The first fairy tale. The lonely prince. The lost girl. The forest. Daniel understood. Outside the city, there was an old pine park where they used to go as children. There was an abandoned wooden stage there, where he had once promised her that he would never give her to the monsters. He found Elina there. She was sitting at the edge of the stage, wearing a thin coat, under the first snow. "You came," she said. "Of course. So I'm still important." Daniel sat beside her, but not too close. "You are important. But I cannot be the only reason you stay in this world. Elina looked at the snow. When I was brought to your house, I was empty. You gave me a name, a role, a place. I decided that if I lost you, I would become nobody again. You are not nobody. Without you, I don't know who I am. Then let's find out, but not through marriage, not through threats, not by making me abandon everyone around me. She gave a bitter little smile. You sound like the doctor. Because the doctor was right. Her eyes filled with tears. I hate this. I know. I hate that you can be kind and still not belong to me. Daniel almost cried too. And I hate that I once made you think love was the only way not to be abandoned. Elina slowly turned to him. This time he took her hand, not like a boy making a promise for life, but like an adult who finally understood the cost of words. I will not disappear from your life, but I will not become your cage, and you will not become mine. She cried for a long time, quietly, without beautiful phrases, without threats, just like a person who, for the first time, allowed herself to be not dangerous, but weak. Several months passed. Elina continued therapy, not because Daniel forced her, but because one day she herself said, I want to understand who I am when I'm not looking at you. She stayed at the academy. The studio accepted her performance. The contract was rewritten. Daniel took part in the project, but not as a hostage to her feelings, as an actor who had made his own choice. Lana also stayed nearby, but not as a possible love interest. She stayed as someone who had once told him an unpleasant truth. And Elina? She was still complicated. Sometimes she was jealous. Sometimes she got angry. Sometimes she wrote Daniel messages that were far too long at night and deleted them before morning. But now she was learning not to turn fear into an order. In the finale of their first major performance, the heroine stood on an empty stage and said, If you love me, don't lock the door. Leave it open. Then if I stay, it will be my choice. Daniel watched from backstage and understood for the first time that Elina was no longer playing the girl who needed to be saved. She was playing a woman who was learning to save herself. After the premiere, she walked up to him in the hallway. Brother, she said out of habit. Then she stopped, smiled. Daniel. He smiled back. Yes? I still love you. He did not look away. I know. But today I won't die because you don't belong to me. Outside the window, snow fell slowly and quietly. Daniel understood. This was the real victory. Not a wedding, not a confession, not a promise to be together at any cost. But the fact that the person who once wanted to turn love into a cage had finally learned how to open the door, and still stayed close. Not because she could not leave, but because, for the first time, she truly chose to live.